Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, I want to start with a little autopsy of a social interaction that I guarantee every single person listening has lived through. It is painful, it's awkward, and it almost always happens at like a dinner party.
Oh, I think I know where this is going. Is this the I read a smart book
So
scenario?
it's exactly that. You're holding a drink, talking to someone, and you bring up a book you just read. Maybe it was Sapiens or Atomic Habits, something everyone's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And you say with total confidence, "Oh, it was incredible. It completely changed how I see the world."
And then comes a follow-up question.
Right. They look at you, genuinely interested, and they ask, "That's so cool. What was the most profound part for you?" Or maybe, "What was your biggest takeaway?"
And silent.
Dead silence.
Yeah.
The mental whiteboard is just, it's blank. You know you loved it. You remember the cover. You remember spending 10 hours with it.
Yeah.
But you cannot pull out a single coherent argument or a fact or even one quote. You just kind of stammer, you know. Just the general concepts were really good.
It's the goldfish memory effect. And it is so demoralizing. It makes you feel like a complete fraud.
It does. Like you just wasted all that time. If I can't even explain it, did I actually learn anything? So today, we are fixing that.
Good.
We're diving into a stack of sources that center on this really interesting experiment by Matt D'Avella.
Matt's a great case study for this. He's a professional consumer of information. He's a huge YouTuber in the productivity space, reads constantly.
But he hit a wall.
Yeah.
You realize his recall was, well, it was garbage.
He was really honest about it, too. He talks about reading classics like Steal Like an Artist or The 48 Laws of Power.
And a month later, he can't name a single one of the laws, which is pretty ironic for a guy whose whole brand is about optimization.
Exactly. So he went on this quest to figure out how the smartest people in the world actually retain what they read, not just tips. He wanted a system. And that journey led him to Ryan Holiday.
A heavy hitter, to say the least. For anyone who doesn't know Ryan, he wrote, "The obstacle is the way, ego is the enemy." And he's famously read over 3,000 books.
But the thing about Ryan, and you see this in his interviews, is that he can just pull these perfect quotes out of thin air.
Yeah, from Marcus Aurelius, or anecdotes about the Civil War, or lines from Blaise Pascal.
It's like he has a filing cabinet in his brain.
Exactly. And as we're going to find out, he actually does have a filing cabinet, just not in his brain. And that's the hook for today. We are breaking down the specific analog system Ryan Holiday uses to build an exterior brain.
And I think the key insight here is that we've been looking at reading all wrong. We see it as consumption when we should be seeing it as a form of, hunting.
I love that. Hunting. But before we get to the index cards, we have to do a bit of a reality check. Matt D'Avella's first step was to look into why we forget. And honestly, it made me feel a lot less stupid.
It should, because the human brain is not a hard drive. It's spotty, it's messy, and it's designed for survival, not for reciting philosophy at a party.
Right. Matt points out this difference between sensory memory and intellectual memory.
Yeah, the example they use is getting hit in the face with a baseball.
Right.
If you're walking down the street and a baseball hits you, you will remember that for the rest of your life. It's vivid, it's painful, it's a huge deviation from the norm. Your brain screams, "Write this down, danger."
But reading a sentence in a business book about, synergy.
Not so much. There's no adrenaline spike. It's just abstract data. And unless you have a photographic memory, which is super rare, your brain just flushes it to save energy.
So we're kind of fighting our own biology. But when Matt went to Ryan Holiday, he didn't get a magic memory trick. Ryan actually pushed back on the whole premise.
This was such a fascinating pivot. Ryan argues we suffer from perfectionism. We think reading a book means memorizing the book. He looks at it with an ROI framework.
Return on investment. Okay, that speaks to me.
Think about it. A paperback is what, $11, $12? It takes you a week to read. Ryan's point is, if you get just one or two ideas from that book that actually change how you think or act.
That's a massive return.
Yeah.
You paid $6 for a life-changing idea.
Right.
That's a steal.
Precisely. Reading is a journey. It's meant to leave you with something, not everything. If you go in thinking you need to retain 100%, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
That does take the pressure off. It shifts the goal from downloading data to finding sparks. But, and this is the catch, even if I only want those two brilliant sparks, I usually forget those two.
And that's where the something becomes nothing. And that's where the system comes in. You need a way to catch those sparks before they go out.
Okay, let's get into the mechanics. Ryan Holiday didn't just invent this system, right? He learned it from a master.
He did. He started out as a research assistant for Robert Greene.
the author of the 48 Laws of Power.
And the laws of human nature. I mean, if you've ever read a Robert Greene book, you know they are incredibly dense. They're packed with history, obscure anecdotes, strategy. You can't write that from memory. You need a workflow.
So Ryan inherited this manual workflow. Let's walk through it step by step.
Yeah.
Because step one is something I think a lot of us do, but maybe not in the right way.
Step one is active reading. It's a mindset shift. You're not a spectator, you are a hunter.
And what does that look like physically? Is it just highlighting?
He has a pen in hand.
Oh,
Always. If
yeah.
a passage resonates, a quote, a story, whatever, he highlights it, but he also folds the bottom corner of the page.
Dog-earing the pages. I know some book purists are probably screaming right now.
You have to get over that. A book is a tool, not a sacred object. He's physically marking the territory, flagging the data for later.
Okay, so you've read the book, you have a dozen folded corners. The average person, me included, would probably stop there or, immediately type the quotes into a Google Doc. But step two is weird. It's really counterintuitive.
Step two is the marination period.
Marination.
Ryan says, do not process your notes immediately. Finish the book, put it on a shelf, walk away. Wait a week, maybe two.
But why? That feels so inefficient. Don't you want to capture it while it's fresh?
No, because fresh is often just infatuation. You know that feeling when you're reading late at night and you think, wow, this sentence about clouds is the most profound thing I've ever read.
Oh, I have definitely been there.
But 2 weeks later, you might look at it and think, why did I highlight this? This is useless. The waiting period acts as a filter. It's quality control. You only transfer the information that still resonates after the initial excitement wears off.
That's so smart. It prevents note bloat. Okay, so the book is marinated. Now what? Step three, the creation of the exterior brain.
Step three is the transfer. And this is strictly analog. Ryan uses standard 4x6 index cards.
Just cheap white index cards.
The cheaper, the better. He goes back to those folded pages. He reads the highlight. If it still hits him, he manually writes it on a card. But, and this is the most critical part, he does not just copy the text.
What does he do then?
He contextualizes it. He'll write the quote, sure, but then he might write why it matters, or rewrite the idea in his own words, or connect it to another thought.
He's having a conversation with the card.
Yes. If you just copy it, you're a Xerox machine. You're not learning. But if you summarize or synthesize it, you're engaging your brain. You're actually encoding the memory.
I see. So the card might say, stoic idea on anger, then the quote, and then a little note like, use this for that patience project.
Exactly. And he puts the book title and page number in the corner for citation.
Okay, so now you've got a stack of cards. If I just toss them in a shoebox, I've got clutter. Step four is what turns the pile into a brain.
Step four is categorization. And this is where most of us go wrong. We organize our notes by source.
Right. I have a notebook labeled Notes on the Great Gatsby, or a folder on my computer called Marketing Book Notes.
Ryan says that's a mistake. That's how a consumer organizes. A creator organizes by theme.
Break that down. That seems like a big shift.
Ryan doesn't have a section for books. He has boxes with categories like stoicism, envy, strategy, life, death, education.
So source doesn't matter, the topic does.
Correct. Let's say you read a biography of Napoleon and he has a great quote about ambition. You write that card. Then you read a modern marketing textbook and find a statistic about ambition. You write that card. Those two cards go right next to each other in the ambition section.
Wow, okay, I see the power in that. You're building a web of ideas. You're forcing Napoleon to talk to a modern marketing guru.
Precisely. This is how you get combinatorial creativity. Innovation comes from smashing unrelated ideas together. You're engineering those collisions.
It sounds amazing. It
Yeah.
really does. But I have to be honest, this sounds like an immense amount of work. Highlighting, waiting, rereading, writing cards, filing them.
It is. It is undeniably high friction. And that brings us to the experiment part of this deep dive.
Right. Matt D'Avella didn't just talk to Ryan. He tried to become him. He took Ryan's book, Courage is Calling, and did the whole system. Cards, box, everything.
Yeah.
And his first reaction was not eureka.
No, it was frustration. He hit that friction hard. He figured it slowed his reading speed by 30 to 40%.
And for a productivity guy, that's everything. He said and felt antsy. He just wanted to power through and check the book off his list.
That antsy feeling is so modern, isn't it? We treat information like fast food. But Matt had a breakthrough. He used let's say, a very colorful analogy.
Oh, the fast sex analogy. I genuinely laughed out loud when I heard this.
It's incredibly effective, though. He basically asks, would you ever brag to your friends, hey guys, I just had the fastest sex of my life?
No. No, you definitely would not. That is not a flex.
And you wouldn't go to a fancy restaurant and brag about scarfing down a 7-course meal in 4 minutes. It would be ridiculous.
It just highlights the absurdity of only valuing speed in reading. If the goal is enrichment or nourishment, speed is actually the enemy.
And Matt realized he wasn't wasting time. He was shifting from devouring a book to digesting it.
I love that. Devouring versus digesting.
He said when he slowed down to write the cards, it felt like he was sitting across from the author, having a conversation, not just being a passive receptacle for data.
Okay, so the feeling changed. But let's get into the science. Why does this actually work for memory? Why is writing on a little card better than highlighting on a Kindle?
It comes down to a few things, but the big one is heuristic memory processing and something called the generation effect.
Unpack this for us.
So our brains are lazy. They want to discard anything non-essential. When you just read passively, your brain says low effort, low importance. But when you engage in labor folding, weighting, and especially handwriting, you're signaling to your brain, hey, this is high cost. This is important.
You're flagging it as high priority data because you're spending calories on it.
Exactly. And handwriting is the key. Because it's slower than typing, it forces your brain to summarize and condense as you write. That's a much higher level cognitive function than just tapping highlight.
So the inefficiency is actually the feature, not the bug.
Precisely. The friction creates the memory.
This also gets into the whole analog versus digital debate. I know people are thinking I use Obsidian or I use Notion.
And you can. But Ryan makes this observation that digital highlights often go into a black hole.
The digital graveyard.
He says they just go somewhere on a computer.
Hmm.
And be honest, how often do you actually go back and review your Kindle My Clippings file?
Never. Literally never. It is where quotes go to die.
Right. But a physical box on your desk, it has a presence. You bump into it. And there's a cognitive advantage to getting away from the screen with all its distractions. It's just you and the thought.
It forces you to monotask.
Yeah.
So let's look at the results for Matt. He does this slow process on courage is calling. What's the final outcome?
Well, he didn't memorize the book because that was never the goal. He ended up with about 20 to 30 high-quality note cards from that one book.
20 to 30 ideas that he actually owns now.
Yes. Categorized, contextualized, and ready to use. And his big takeaway was that you don't remember things by accident. You have to systematize it, otherwise you're just relying on luck.
And Ryan's office shows what happens when you scale that.
It's incredible. He showed Matt his office just boxes and boxes of these cards. He figures he has at least one full shoebox of cards for every single book he has written.
That is a literal, physical, external brain. He can just open a box on ego and pull out a perfect quote. No wonder he sounds so smart. He's not relying on his memory in the moment.
He's relying on the work he did 5 years ago. He's leveraging his past self.
Now, Matt admits, and I think most of us would agree, that keeping thousands of physical cards might be a bit much. He calls himself on the goldfish end of the memory scale, in terms of sanity and apartment space.
And that's totally fair. The system has to be adaptable. You don't have to copy Ryan perfectly. If you want to use a digital tool, you can. But you have to keep the core principles.
And those are?
Active reading, that marination period, synthesis rewriting in your own words, and thematic sorting. If you just copy-paste into a digital file, it's going to fail. You have to do the mental work.
It's that thematic sorting that's the biggest takeaway for me. Moving from book reports to idea buckets.
That is the shift from a consumer to a creator. Consumers organized by source. Creators organized by utility, by how can I use this?
Consumers organized by source. Creators organized by utility. That is going on a note card right there.
I'll write it down later.
So what does this all mean for us, for the listener looking at their bookshelf and realizing they can't remember 90% of it?
I think the summary is this. We have to stop worshiping speed and volume. In this age of information overload, the person who reads 10 books a year and actually applies them wins against the person who reads 100 and remembers nothing.
Quality over quantity. Action over consumption.
Exactly. And don't be paralyzed by perfection. Just start imperfectly. Grab a pack of index cards, try it with one chapter. Try to pull out just one idea.
It changes why we read. It's
Yeah.
not about checking a box or impressing people. It's about building a resource for your future self.
You're sending a message to future you saying, here, this is important, don't forget it.
I love that. So here's our final provocative thought for you to chew on today. Look at the last 5 things you read. Books, articles, whatever. If I asked you right now to produce a single physical note or a specific actionable takeaway from any of them. Could you?
And if you can't, did you actually learn anything? Or did you just pass the time?
Maybe it's time to buy a pack of index cards.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Happy reading.